Hello again, nice to see you. It's been another 2 weeks since the last video, sketchbook tour. You can see a link to that one up here. And I've been busy, I've been doing lots of fun things in my spare time. Some of you will have seen this particular illustration, Weird Fishes, inspired by a Radiohead song by the same name, which started up a new little series. And I recently just completed the second in the series. Put that right there. I'll give you 2 seconds to see if you can guess. Yes, it's another Radiohead song. This one, Paranoid Android, and if you're interested in the process for this one, or for the Weird Fishes one for that matter, I've put some time lapses of those up on my site. I'll try and put a link to those somewhere in here as well. And excitingly, there's a third in the series coming up. There's a very quick sneak peek of the early stages of it. I wonder if you can guess which song this might be. More on this one to come. And I've also been doing some silver point work. Now look, this will look a little bit like pencil. Silver point is, it leaves a mark that's not dissimilar to graphite, but it has a little bit of a shine to it, and it tarnishes over time. It changes color, and you can create really lovely spidery lines. So you can see this is the piece that I'm working on to replace the pen and ink one that I was losing faith in, that I've talked about ad nauseum now, so I'm not going to keep harping on about that one. I'm really liking where this one is going. It's obviously a lot more subtle, very much informed by the last piece, and I'll just keep working on this one. There's not too much more to add, but I will continue to add a bit more layer of the silver over the top, just to build up some more of the tones, and then let time take its toll, and it will start to turn and become a bit darker. So there you go, lots of things that I've been working on. I'm really happy with what's happening in my little studio, which will soon be open for people to come through and visit. So I'll be posting some things about that. It's middle of October, weekend in the middle of October, that I'll have my doors open and allow people to come in and see my little space and have a chat. That's what I'm really looking forward to. But for this video, I thought it might go back to one from 2 videos ago, where it was a bit of a come draw with me type video, where we looked at thumbnails and how important thumbnails can be in fast tracking your illustrations and getting yourself off to a really great start with some different ideas, 1 minute to 2 minute thumbnail sketches. This one I thought we could focus on how to just do some really simple figures to drop into your compositions. So you might be somebody who likes to do landscapes, or you do cityscapes, or you do something that and you don't tend to focus on the human figure too much. But sometimes adding a human figure into your scenes can be really useful and helpful, and set some of the space and the context of the piece. And it doesn't have to be a very detailed figure. So I thought we could have a look at a little bit of a style for quickly drawing a figure up. In some cases, creating a little bit of dynamic posing in it. And I promise you, it doesn't require you to know anything about anatomy. It's a really quick and easy hack, I think, that you'll find you can adopt and drop into either into your thumbnails or into your pieces as you're developing them. So let's hop into the studio and let's do some work together. Okay, please. Okay, so we're going to do something really simple. Again, this is about creating a little strategy for dropping some figures into your composition, where the figures aren't meant to be the main focus. This is not about realistic figure drawing or anything like that. This is really about how to drop figures into your composition to help tell the story. In your case, you might be wanting to develop a landscape and you want to set scale. You want people to get a sense of where things are in the different planes, how big are those mountains in the background, and so forth. So I've just drawn up these 3 very quick thumbnail sketches that we can perhaps drop some figures in a moment. Now you will probably look at this and go, this is nothing more than a glorified stick figure. that you're going to show me how to draw, and you might be right. But there is place for stick figures in these sorts of compositional exercises, and this will be an articulated stick figure at the very least, and it's a starting point. You can always add more to this as you go along. And so let's start by just drawing a little bit of a line across the top. That'll be our headline, and a line just about here. That can be essentially where the bottom of our figures will be. And we're just going to use circles and lines to get things started, or in this case ovals and lines, to represent the head and the spine. So we might start by just dropping down. Let's see if we can fit 5 heads along here. Really simple start. And please just draw along with me. This is part of the fun. And we're going to use lines to represent spines, and we'll start with a really straight, neutral pose, straight spine. We might have a spine that's leaning to this left, so there's a figure that might be in motion in that direction. There's a figure heading towards them in the other direction, if you can imagine the spine in that one. Here we might drop the spine down with a little bit of a nice curve, like so. And for the last one, we might even exaggerate the curve a little bit more. Okay, so now we have what look like 5 tadpoles. Yep. But this is our starting point. So really in these sorts of figures, the shoulder lines and the hip lines sort of can tell a lot about the pose. And so if we start with like drawing in a line to represent the shoulders for our first neutral pose, we might for the second one have the shoulders tilted in this direction. And maybe go with straight again here, and maybe tilted in this direction, and maybe straight again here. Okay, so it gives us a little bit of variety to play with. And I just like to create a little bit of a trapezoid to represent the torso. So I'm just, in this case, going down to where waist might be. You can see I'm sort of drawing in an angle for these ones where the spine is curved or it's leaning. Okay, simple so far. And then we're going to drop in a place for where our hips and our pelvis might be. So again, we can just use a little box, but we can play around a little bit. So in this case, we're going to have the hips tilted in the same direction as the shoulders in this case. In this case, we're going to have the hips tilted in the opposite direction. This one, shoulders are going this way, so I'm going to have the hips going opposite direction. Something called contrapposto. That is a nice trick that life models tend to use to create really lovely dynamic poses. You can see how it creates a little bit of a short on this side and a long on this side. And for this one, let's go with, that'll do, some hips in that direction. Okay. So you can start to see our figures are coming out again. It's just stick figures really. And for the legs, I'm just going to create really simple connections down to that bottom line. Okay, so really simple for that very first pose. Now for this pose, let's say we'll draw a straight line for this one, and we might draw out a little bit like so for that one. Here we can have, why don't we have that one going in this direction, and we'll put this one behind, and we can get a real good sense of motion there. So you can see there's nothing, I'm not drawing knees, I'm not drawing feet, I'm just drawing lines, really basic lines to represent the legs, but already we can start to see a lot of variety in these poses. And again, for this one, we've got a nice bit of weight perhaps going down through that particular position of that leg, and maybe we might bend that particular leg. And for this one, why don't we drop that leg down here, and we might even have this leg kicking up like so. Okay, you can make this up as you go along, obviously, and this is the time to have a bit of a play. And all right, so all we're missing now are some arms. So again for our first one, we'll just draw a really basic a couple of lines to represent the arms. For this one, we might we'll draw the arm up, bent at that with an elbow straight for there. Now if this person's walking, when you're walking, if your left leg is forward, then your right arm will be forward and your left arm will be behind. For this one, let's see, why don't we go for someone who's just got both arms up in the air. And this kind of looks like a kicking pose. So let's have one arm out like so, and maybe another arm like so. Okay, so 5 figures very quickly drawn and give you a sense of a bit of movement. Again, if you're dropping these figures into compositions, you're probably going to be using these first 3 more often than not. People walking down streets, people standing and talking to each other, a person sort of looking into a window perhaps, and there's their hand over their eyes. One last thing you can also think about doing is if you want to give a sense of which way the figures are facing, is I like to draw a line down the center of what would be their head and then a line across here which would be where their eye line is. And again, if you want to make it even more obvious, you can drop a couple of eyes in. And again, you can change where, like so if we put the eye line down here this time and we move the center line that way, now we're looking back in that direction. Where do we want this person to look? Let's say they're looking directly up, so we'll put the eye line really high. Again, the eye line will help you work out where your eyes will go. And for this one, we might just over this way. Happy figures. There we go. We didn't do this one here, so let's go. They're looking in this direction. And there you go. Again, purely for dropping these figures into a composition. So let's just have a look and see what that might look like over here. Well, let's pick. We might pick this one here for our figure that's walking down this little path. Again, this will help us set our scale. So we'll draw our oval here, like so. We had our line going in that direction. We had our straight line here for our shoulders. Draw down our little trapezoid, so a little bit thinner at the waist. We had our hips heading in this direction. Walking like so. Walking like so. And dun-dun. And I might draw them looking in this direction. Okay, so that's having them very forward in the scene. And again, for setting scale, I can now work out that I can probably draw a smaller line down the back for somebody who might be following, who might be just standing there looking at the tree, even pointing at the tree. Again, we're just playing around with what's going to work well in this composition. Cityscape, again, we can have people, again, it's just going to draw circles and lines to get us started. You can see how quickly you can drop these in. Again, we're just wanting to get a sense of scale and the relationship of these figures. It obviously tells a lot more about this particular cityscape if we have a sense of where people are and what they're doing. But you know, people aren't going to be jumping around and kicking things and doing lots of dynamic things on the city, so you can pick a lot more neutral type poses for these. Now for this one, I want to get a sense of scale, so we don't really know how big this cliff or this bluff is. I might just slide that up a bit so we can see. So we could start by just dropping in really small figures, like so, and getting a bit of a sense, in this case, of where they are in that landscape. And if I draw a bigger figure, like so, here, then I can communicate in my composition now that this person is in the foreground and they're likely looking back in this direction. And so where their head is in terms of the horizon line, and just this difference in the scale here tells me a lot about the depth of this particular illustration. So there you go. Nothing particularly complicated about that, but I think you'll find this kind of really is a nice quick hack for adding a bit more information into your thumbnails or your compositions, or even your landscapes and your cityscapes. If you got them worked up to a finished state, but you want to drop a few little figures in, you don't need to do too much to add something. It doesn't take away from your overall piece, doesn't draw too much attention to it, but it helps tell the story. And we might just do one more. In this case, how you can create a frame for a figure and then just use a little bit of an outline to fill it out a bit further. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll use an oval to represent the head again. And again, we'll use a line to represent the spine. I'm just going to give it a little bit of motion like so. And I'm going to start with some shoulders leaning in this direction, and I'm going to go for my contrapposto pose. And in this case, the hips are heading in a different angle, or contrary angle to the shoulders. And I'm going to use a different shape here. I'm going to represent the chest with this shape here to represent the rib cage. So if you can imagine the rib cage like so. And I've got my line there that represents where the curvature of that rib cage might be. Here's my shoulders, my collarbones across here. I can draw simple shapes to represent the sockets for the shoulders. And down here I'm just going to draw a similar flattened shape to represent the pelvis. And again, I might drop a couple of circles in to represent where the joints for the legs might be. And in this case, I might already think about where I want my figure to be looking. I'm going to have them looking in this direction. Great. Now again, with simple case, I'm going to add a knee this time. And I'm going to stick my other leg out at a slight angle like so. Already looking very dynamic. And we might have this hand on the hip. And we might have this hand just waving. Okay. So again, a slightly more articulated stick figure, but a little bit more information here about what the shape of the torso might look like so. And usually your belly button's probably going to be sitting right in that middle space, right in between. My ear is normally going to be starting, the top of it will be in line with that eye line, so I can drop my ear in like so. And I'm going to shift to a little bit of ink in this case. I might even knock this back a little bit with my kneadable eraser. And then I'm just going to draw around the outside. And I'm going to draw in the neck like so, shoulder like so. And I'm just using the shapes that I've already got down like this. Again, I'm not looking for a particularly realistic looking figure, but at least the proportions hopefully will be okay. And then I'll draw down my arm like so. You can see I'm just drawing around the outlines here. Again here, got this arm that's going out like so. Using those construction lines that I've created, joining up that line like so. Again, nothing particularly complicated about the hand or the arm, just there. And for my legs, I'll just give them a little bit more width, but I'll use those lines that I've already created, like so. So, and again, little triangles for the feet will be fine. You can already see that there's already on our way to building the structure of something that's a little bit more sophisticated than the figures that we created up here. Again, I can work out whether I want to add some hair. How far do I want to go? Draw my eyes in here, my little nose, my little mouth. I might leave it at that. You can imagine you can add your clothes, you can add other objects, but already just with those basic structures, it's the oval for the head, the line for the spine to give a little bit of the dynamic motion, the contrapposto angle of the shoulders heading in this direction and the hips heading in this direction. Creates some really nice interest there. We've got the weight going down through that particular leg, which means this leg can stick out to the side a little. We've added a little bit more variety around the pose just by tilting where the head is looking. A lot more dynamic than a basic simple T-type pose. There you go. That's probably the next level if you're interested in adding figures in that fashion. So there you have it. There is a place for stick figures in your artwork, in your illustrations, after all. And I hope that basic structure of circle and line and shoulders and hips, basic shapes is useful, that you can use that in a fashion to just practice different poses, and remembering that in this case, this is about just finding a place for your figures in your compositions and adding a little bit of information about the direction that they're heading, whether they're moving or they're not. And with those structural lines that we've just used, you can do all of those things. But please let me know. I'd love some feedback. Was that too simple? Is that not very helpful? Would you like to know what the next level might look like? And we can certainly do quite a lot more on figure drawing. I'd love to be able to tap into some of my love for life drawing in particular and share some of the tips and tricks and some of the styles that I've picked up along the way if you want to improve your figure drawing. And that's where we might leave it. My simple pleasure this week is weather's getting nice and warm. We're in spring now here in Melbourne, so it's lovely to go for a little bit of a wander down to the local shops. Weir Street is not far from here. It's about a 10-minute walk for me, and it's a good excuse to stretch the legs and go grab a sneaky coffee. That is a bit of a treat. It is very much a simple pleasure. Not everybody can enjoy it, so I'm very grateful for it. Please let me know what you would like to see next in this video series. Let me know your simple pleasures and I'll shout them out here as well. But thanks again for all of your support. The last few videos, I've had some lovely conversations with people who've been kind enough to leave their comments. So please, if you like what I'm producing and you want to see more like this, hit the like, leave a comment, and that will really help me hopefully spread some of these videos out to more and more people. Okay, I'll see you next time.